The soft beeping of the radar broke the silence on the bridge of the Explorer 7. Jack Stone lifted his tired eyes from the star charts and looked at the flashing red dot on his screen. After 3 months alone in deep space, anything unusual caught his attention. "Computer, analyze the signal," he said, reaching for his cold coffee. The small research vessel's systems hummed as they processed the strange transmission. Signal analysis complete. Origin unknown. Pattern consistent with distress beacon. Location Sector 947. Outer Rim Territories. Jack scratched his beard, now thick after months without trimming. Sector 947 wasn't on any of his charts. He pulled up the galactic map, zooming out until he found the source. The signal came from a dark region of space, far from any known trade routes or colonies. "Computer, send a standard greeting message to the Galactic Council. Request information about Sector 947. While waiting for a response, Jack studied the signal pattern. Something about it seemed almost musical, not the usual automated distress calls he'd heard before. This one had rhythm, like a heartbeat. The Council's response came faster than expected. Much faster. The urgent priority stamp on the message made Jack sit up straight. "Attention Explorer 7. Avoid CCC2R 947. Repeat. Avoid CCC2R 947. Regium Q contains homeworld of classes X predatory species. 3 civilizations lost to hostile contact. Maintain distance. This is not a request." Jack read the message twice, then 3 times. Class X species were rare, only 5 known in the entire galaxy. To be classified as Class X, a species had to demonstrate both advanced intelligence and extreme lethal capability. He looked at the signal again. It didn't sound like something from mindless killers. The pattern was too complex, too deliberate. "Computer, continue course to signal source. Warning. Course violation of Galactic Council Directive. Override. Authorization. Stone Alpha 7. The stars blurred as Explorer 7 adjusted its heading. Jack knew he was probably making the huge mistake, but something didn't add up. 3 civilizations destroyed. Yet the Council knew so little about the species. Why hadn't they sent research teams? Diplomatic missions? As Explorer 7 approached Sector 947, the ship's sensors revealed more details about the signal source. A planet orbiting a dying star, perpetually caught in twilight. Storms wrapped around its surface like snakes, massive lightning bolts illuminating the dark clouds. "Computer, scan for artificial structures. Scanning. Warning. Atmospheric interference severe. Data limited." Jack guided his ship through the outer edges of the storm system. The Explorer 7 shuddered as wind currents buffeted its hull. Rain and ice pelted the viewport, creating an eerie melody as they struck the reinforced glass. Detecting impact crater. Recent, approximately 3 planetary rotations old. That got Jack's attention. "Show me." The screen displayed a massive gouge in the planet's surface, still smoking in places. Debris scattered around it suggested some kind of ship or station had crashed. If anyone had survived, they wouldn't last long in these conditions. Jack checked his environment suit's seals as Explorer 7 descended through the cloud layer. The ship's landing gear extended, searching for solid ground in the twilight world below. Final warning. Landing sequence violates 17 Galactic Council protocols. Noted, Jack muttered, too focused on the landing to care about protocols. The ship touched down on a rocky outcrop overlooking the crash site. Wind howled around the hull, carrying strange sounds that might have been the local wildlife, or something worse. Jack stood at the airlock, double-checking his equipment. Emergency beacon, plasma torch, medical kit, and a small defensive stunner. Not that it would do much good against a Class X predator. The sensible thing would be to take off and pretend he never saw the signal. But that wasn't who he was. Someone needed help, and he was here. Simple as that. The airlock hissed open, and Jack stepped onto the alien world. His suit's lights cut through the perpetual dusk, revealing a landscape that looked like it had been carved by angry gods. Sharp rock formations jutted from the ground like teeth, and the constant lightning created shifting shadows that seemed to move on their own. He didn't notice the real shadow moving behind him until it was too late. Jack spun around, his light beam cutting through the darkness. The shadow he'd glimpsed was gone, but he could feel something watching him. Years of space exploration had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now every nerve in his body screamed danger. A flash of lightning revealed what stalked him. The creature stood twice his height, its body covered in scales that seemed to drink in the light. 6 limbs moved with terrible grace, 4 powerful legs and 2 arms ending in curved claws that could tear through starship hull metal. But it was the eyes that froze Jack in place. 3 pairs of glowing amber orbs, filled with intelligence and something else he couldn't quite read. This had to be one of the infamous shadow claws, the galaxy's most lethal predators. The creature limped forward, and Jack noticed something wrong with its movement. Dark liquid dripped from its side. Blood or something similar. It was injured, probably from the crash he detected. "Easy there," Jack said, knowing his words meant nothing to the creature, but hoping his tone might help. He slowly lowered his stunner to the ground. "I'm not here to hurt you." The shadow claw's head tilted, reminding Jack of curious dogs back on Earth. It made a sound, not a growl, but a complex series of clicks and whistles. The same pattern as the distress signal. "You sent the signal," Jack realized. "You're not just some animal. You're calling for help." Lightning flashed again, and Jack saw more details. The creature wore what looked like equipment, sophisticated devices attached to its body. Not decorations, but tools. This wasn't a mindless beast. This was someone wearing technology. The shadow claw took another step forward, then collapsed. Its injury was worse than Jack had thought. Without thinking, he rushed to help, medical kit already in hand. Warning: 3 Galactic Council vessels entering atmosphere. His ship's computer blared through his suit's comm system. The shadow claw's eyes focused on the sky, then back to Jack. It made another series of sounds, more urgent this time. Jack didn't need a translator to understand fear when he heard it. "They're not coming to help, are they?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. The Council's ships were probably coming to finish what the crash started. Jack made a decision that would change his life forever. "Can you walk? We need to get to my ship. Now." The creature struggled to its feet. Jack moved to its injured side, not sure if he was about to be torn apart for his trouble. Instead, the shadow claw allowed him to help support its weight. They moved as fast as they could across the rocky ground. The Council ships were visible now, their weapons already powering up. Lightning crashed around them as the planet's storms grew stronger. "Stop where you are," a voice boomed from above. "Step away from the Class X organism. This is your final warning." Jack looked at the injured creature beside him. In its eyes, he saw not a mindless killer, but someone in pain. Someone who needed help. He'd never walked away from that in his life, and he wasn't about to start now. Computer, open airlock. Start engine warm-up sequence. The Explorer 7's airlock opened just as the first Council ship fired. The shot missed, superheating the rocks where they'd stood moments before. The shadow claw moved with surprising speed, despite its injury, practically carrying Jack the final few meters to the ship. They tumbled into the airlock together as more shots filled the air. The outer door sealed shut just in time. "Get us out of here," Jack shouted, helping the injured creature further inside. Maximum speed. The Explorer 7 shot into the storm-filled sky, weaving between energy blasts from the Council ships. Jack knew he'd just made himself an enemy of the most powerful organization in the galaxy. He'd probably get labeled a traitor to his species. But as he looked at the injured being who now trusted him with its life, he knew he'd made the right choice. Sometimes doing the right thing meant breaking all the rules. The real question was, what was he supposed to do now? The Explorer 7 drifted in the shadow of a gas giant, its systems running quiet to avoid detection. In the ship's small medical bay, Jack watched as the ship's automated medical system worked on the Shadowclaw's injuries. The creature lay still, its amber eyes following Jack's every move. The wounds almost healed, Jack said, more to break the silence than anything else. Whatever you people are made of, it's tough stuff. The Shadowclaw made a series of clicks and whistles. Jack noticed it was drawing something with its claw on the medical bay's datapad. Numbers. Mathematical equations. You're trying to communicate, Jack said, leaning closer. You're using math as a universal language. The creature nodded. An unmistakably human gesture. It had been studying him too. Over the next few hours, they developed a basic way to talk. The Shadowclaw, who Jack started calling Rex after learning it was their equivalent of a scientist, used diagrams and numbers to explain things. It was slow, but it worked. So, you're not just intelligent, Jack said, looking at the complex equations Rex had drawn. You're way ahead of us in some areas. Why does the Council paint you as mindless killers? Rex drew a series of images, ships landing on their world, machines digging into the ground, and Shadowclaws defending their homes. The message was clear. They weren't the aggressors. They were protecting themselves. Resources, Jack said, understanding dawning. They wanted your planet's resources. And when you said no, Rex drew one final image. The Council's symbol with a large X through it. Then it added more numbers, coordinates to specific places and dates. Evidence. They lied about everything, didn't they? Those 3 civilizations they claim you destroyed. That was self-defense. You were stopping them from helping the Council steal from your world. The ship's computer interrupted with an alert. Warning. Multiple ships detected entering system, matching Galactic Council signatures. Jack rushed to the bridge, Rex following close behind. The scanner showed 5 Council warships spreading out to search the gas giant's moons. They really want to keep your story quiet, Jack muttered. Good thing we recorded everything you showed me. The truth needs to get out. Rex made an urgent series of clicks and pointed to a specific set of coordinates on the star map. Jack understood. Somewhere out there was proof of what the Council had done. If we can get that evidence, we can show everyone who the real monsters are, Jack said. But we'll need help. Rex drew a quick series of symbols. Jack recognized some of them as trade routes, places where independent ships gathered, places where people might listen to their story. It's risky, Jack said. The Council's got bounty hunters and spies everywhere, and most people are terrified of your species. Rex's response was simple. It placed one clawed hand carefully on Jack's shoulder. The gesture said more than words could. Trust, friendship, a promise to face whatever came together. Jack smiled. You know what? A human and a Shadowclaw working together. Maybe that's exactly what people need to see. Show them everything they've been told is wrong. The ship's computer spoke again. Council vessels approaching search pattern Alpha. Detection likely in 17 minutes. Well, partner, Jack said, sliding into the pilot's seat, ready to show the galaxy what we can do. Rex moved to the co-pilot position, already working on calculations for their escape route. Outside, the gas giant's storms rage, providing cover for what they were about to attempt. Jack powered up the Explorer 7's engines, keeping them on minimal output. They'd have one chance to slip past the Council ships, one chance to start gathering the evidence they needed, one chance to change everything. As they prepared to make their move, Jack realized something important. In just a few days, he'd become friends with a creature that was supposed to be the galaxy's most dangerous predator. If that was possible, anything was possible. Sometimes the greatest adventures started with just one person willing to look past fear and see the truth. Attention all systems. This is a galaxy-wide alert. Jack Stone, former deep space researcher, is now classified as an enemy of peace. Reward for capture, 1 million credits. Warning: subject is traveling with a Class X predator. Approach with extreme caution. The message played on every screen in the crowded space station bar. Jack pulled his hood lower, trying to blend in with the shadows. Beside him, Rex was hidden under a large cargo tarp, pretending to be shipping containers. Not the most comfortable disguise, but it worked. They'd spent the last week jumping from system to system, always one step ahead of the Council's ships. Now they needed supplies, information, and allies, if any existed. Your drinks, the bartender said, sliding 2 containers across the counter. He looked at the large shape under the tarp. Interesting cargo you got there. Research equipment, Jack said quickly, very sensitive to light. The bartender nodded slowly. You know, some interesting data packets came through the underground network yesterday. Council ships acting strange, visiting old battle sites, looking for something they don't want found. Jack's heart beat faster. This was the kind of lead they needed. How much for that information? Free, the bartender said, leaning closer. Between us, a lot of independent traders are tired of Council control. We're not all blind to what's happening. A quiet click from under the tarp told Jack that Rex was recording everything. They needed all the evidence they could get. The bartender passed Jack a small data chip. Coordinates 4. He stopped mid-sentence, eyes fixed on the bar's entrance. 3 bounty hunters walked in, their armor marked with Council symbols. They carried scanner devices, sweeping the room slowly. Back exit, the bartender whispered. Through the kitchen. Hurry. Jack and Rex moved carefully toward the kitchen, trying not to draw attention. They were almost there when one of the scanners beeped. Predator DNA detected. A bounty hunter shouted. They're here. The room erupted into chaos. Customers ran in every direction as the bounty hunters drew their weapons. Rex burst from under the tarp, moving to shield Jack from the first shots. No, Jack pulled his friend down behind a table. We do this together. The bartender threw something across the room. A smoke grenade. Thick green clouds filled the bar, making it impossible to see. Perfect cover for a Shadowclaw's natural hunting abilities. Rex moved like a shadow through the smoke, disarming the bounty hunters with precise strikes. No killing, no serious injuries. Exactly as they'd planned. They needed to show everyone that the stories about Shadowclaw violence were lies. Jack grabbed the data chip and ran for the kitchen, Rex right behind him. They burst through the back door into a maintenance tunnel. Stop them. More Council forces appeared at both ends of the tunnel. Up, Jack pointed to a ventilation shaft. Rex grabbed him and jumped, their combined strength tearing the vent cover free. They crawled through the narrow space as energy bolts heated the metal behind them. They emerged on the station's upper level, close to where they'd docked the Explorer 7. But something was wrong. The ship's security systems were flashing red. They'd found the ship, Jack said. We need a new plan. Rex pointed to a sleek courier vessel being loaded with cargo. The pilot was arguing with a Council official, distracted. Steal it? Jack asked. Rex's only answer was a series of excited clicks. You're a bad influence on me, you know that. They moved fast. Rex disabled the security systems while Jack prepared for emergency launch. Within minutes, they were shooting away from the station in their borrowed ship. Alert. Alert. Unauthorized launch detected. The station's warning came too late. As they jumped to light speed, Jack checked the data chip from the bartender. His eyes widened as he read. Rex, look at this. Records of Council ships visiting a secret facility. Deep in unclaimed space. Could be where they're keeping the proof we need. Rex studied the coordinates, then drew a quick warning symbol. The facility would be heavily guarded. Yeah, Jack agreed. It's probably a trap. He smiled at his friend. Want to go spring it? Rex's answering growl needed no translation. They had a new destination, new evidence to find, and a galaxy of trouble waiting for them. The hunt was just beginning. The stolen courier ship descended through the thick clouds of Rex's homeworld. This time, Jack knew what to expect. The constant storms, the eternal twilight, the jagged rocks. But Rex was guiding them somewhere new, somewhere hidden. "That's impossible," Jack said, staring at the ship's sensors. "There's a whole city down there." Hidden beneath the planet's surface was an enormous cavern system. And inside those caverns was the most advanced civilization Jack had ever seen. Buildings of crystal and metal stretched from floor to ceiling, their surfaces glowing with soft light. Gardens of strange, luminescent plants provided food and oxygen. It was beautiful. "Your people built all this underground to stay hidden," Jack realized. "The surface storms are your protection." Rex made a sound of agreement as they landed on a platform near the center of the city. Other Shadow Claws approached, scientists, workers, families with children. They moved with grace and purpose, using tools and technology far beyond anything Jack had seen before. "So much for being mindless killers," Jack muttered. A larger Shadow Claw stepped forward, wearing symbols of leadership. Rex explained through gestures and mathematics that this was the chief scientist. More importantly, they had proof of the Council's crimes. The chief scientist led them to a vast chamber filled with historical records. Through a combination of images, mathematics, and recorded data, they showed Jack the truth. The Shadow Claws were empaths. They could feel the emotions and pain of other living beings. When they killed, even for food, they experienced their prey's suffering. It had shaped their entire society, making them deeply peaceful despite their fearsome appearance. "That's why you hide," Jack said. "You feel everything. The Council's attacks, the deaths of those they sent to fight you. You felt all of it." Rex drew a series of images showing the first contact with the Council. The Shadow Claws had tried to communicate peacefully, but the Council saw only their appearance and their advanced technology. They wanted the Shadow Claws' scientific knowledge and the rich resources of their world. When the Shadow Claws refused to be enslaved, the Council branded them as monsters. They sent armies and claimed the Shadow Claws were the aggressors. Each time, the Shadow Claws defended themselves, feeling every death, every loss. "Your weapons," Jack said, noticing something in the records. "They're all defensive. Designed to disable, not kill. Even when fighting for your lives, you tried to minimize suffering." The chief scientist activated a holographic display showing 3 peaceful species that once lived near Shadow Claw space. The same 3 the Council claimed were destroyed by the Shadow Claws. "They helped you," Jack understood. "They learned the truth and tried to protect you. So the Council eliminated them and blamed you for it." Rex's people had saved as many refugees as they could. They lived here now, in other hidden cities, proof of the Council's lies. But coming forward would put those survivors at risk. "We need a way to expose the Council without endangering anyone else," Jack said. "Something they can't deny or cover up." The chief scientist led them deeper into the city, to a secure vault. Inside was a data core containing thousands of records. Every peaceful contact attempt, every Council attack, every innocent life lost to their lies. "This is it," Jack said. "But they'll never let us present this evidence. They'll try to stop us with everything they have." Rex drew a simple image, a Shadow Claw and a human standing together. "Yeah," Jack smiled. "They've never faced anything like us before. A human who isn't afraid and a Shadow Claw who wants to protect life. We don't fit their stories." The chief scientist made a series of complex sounds. Rex translated through drawings. The entire Shadow Claw civilization would help them. It was time to show the galaxy the truth. Looking at the peaceful city around him, Jack felt a deep resolve. These beings who could feel the entire galaxy's pain had trusted him with their greatest secret. He wouldn't let them down. The real challenge was about to begin. The Great Hall of the Independent Species Alliance was packed. Representatives from 100 worlds sat in tiered seats, watching as Jack Stone walked to the center platform. Rex moved beside him, causing waves of whispers and gasps from the audience. That human walks with a shadow claw. Is he insane? Security, do something. But Jack and Rex had planned for this. The shadow claw moved with deliberate grace, showing no aggression. Jack spoke clearly into the hall's translation system. My name is Jack Stone. I'm here to show you the truth about the Galactic Council and the species they call monsters. Council representatives burst into the hall, their guards drawing weapons. This is an unauthorized session. That creature is a danger to everyone here. The only danger, Jack said, his voice carrying across the chamber, is the lie you've been telling for the past 50 years. Rex activated the data core they'd brought from the hidden city. Holograms filled the air above the platform, showing historical records. The Council's first contact with the Shadow Claws, the peaceful greeting they received, the demands for resources that followed. Watch, Jack told the assembly. See how the Council created their own enemy. The images showed Council ships attacking Shadowclaw cities. Peaceful attempts at communication met with violence. Then came the proof that shook the hall to silence. Recordings of Council ships destroying the 3 civilizations they'd blamed on the Shadowclaws. Lies, a Council member shouted. That creature has corrupted the human's mind. Rex stepped forward. With careful movements, he showed what the Shadowclaws had been hiding. His species' empathic abilities let them project feelings to others. One by one, he shared with the representatives the pain his people had felt during each attack, the suffering they experienced when forced to defend themselves. The hall erupted in chaos. Some representatives wept, overwhelmed by the shared emotions. Others turned angry eyes toward the Council members. There's more, Jack said. The survivors of those 3 destroyed civilizations. They're alive, hidden by the Shadow Claws, protected from the Council's lies. A hidden door opened. Representatives from the supposedly destroyed species walked in, living proof of the Council's deception. The Council guards raised their weapons, but they were too late. Other species' security forces had already surrounded them. In the confusion, more representatives stood up, telling their own stories of Council manipulation and threats. You've turned them all against us. The Council leader's face was red with fury. He pulled out a hidden weapon, aiming at Jack. If we can't control the galaxy's strongest species, no one will. Rex moved faster than anyone could follow, but he didn't attack. Instead, he placed himself between Jack and the weapon, spreading his arms wide, defenseless, choosing to risk death rather than harm another being. The Council leader's hand shook. Fight back. Be the monster we said you were. They never were the monsters, Jack said quietly. Look around. Really look. A being that feels the pain of others, choosing peace even now. Who's the real monster here? The weapon clattered to the ground. Council members began surrendering as their lies fell apart. Representatives from dozens of worlds stood together, united by the truth. In the chaos that followed, Jack looked at his friend. You didn't have to put yourself in danger like that. Rex drew a simple image on his datapad. 2 different beings standing together, stronger than either could be alone. Yeah, Jack smiled. That's what friends do. As the Independent Species Alliance security forces led the Council members away, representatives crowded around Jack and Rex. They had questions, wanted to learn more, needed to understand. What happens now? Someone asked. Jack looked at the assembly, at all these different species coming together. Now we build something better. Something based on truth and understanding, not fear. Rex made a sound of agreement. The time of hiding was over. A new chapter was beginning, all because one human had chosen to look past appearances, and one Shadowclaw had dared to trust. 1 year had passed since the day that changed the galaxy. Jack Stone stood at the window of his new office on the Shadowclaw homeworld, watching ships from dozens of species landing in the newly built spaceport. The eternal storms still raged above, but they no longer needed to hide what lay beneath. First day as official ambassador, he said to himself. Who would have thought? Rex entered the room, wearing the symbols of his new position as Chief of Interspecies Relations. The Shadow Claw moved to stand beside his friend, both of them watching the activity below. The underground city had grown. New sections housed diplomatic missions from across the galaxy. Gardens filled with plants from different worlds stretched through crystal-roofed caverns. Species that once feared the Shadow Claws now came to learn from them. Remember when everyone thought you were going to eat me? Jack laughed. Rex made an amused clicking sound and drew a quick sketch of their first meeting. Yeah, we've come a long way from that stormy night. A group of young Shadow Claws passed by outside, leading alien children on a tour of the city. None of the children showed any fear. To them, the Shadow Claws were just people, different looking, but people all the same. Ambassador Stone. His computer displayed a message. The first group of medical students has arrived. The Shadow Claws' empathic abilities had revolutionized medicine across the galaxy. Their ability to feel others' pain made them incredible healers. Now, doctors from every species came to learn from them. Send them in, Jack said. The door opened, and 20 students from 15 different species entered. They looked nervous until Rex stepped forward and gently shared a feeling of welcome and calm. Welcome to New Dawn City, Jack said, using the name they'd chosen for the expanding capital. You're about to learn something amazing. How understanding another's pain can help you heal them. Rex drew a diagram showing how the first medical training program would work. The students gathered around, fascinated. There was no trace of the fear that the council had spent decades building. A small alert popped up on Jack's screen. The last of the council's hidden bases had been found. The former leaders were facing justice for their crimes, while a new governing body, one that included all species, even the once hidden ones, was building a better future. Ambassador. A young human girl, part of a school group touring the diplomatic quarter, peeked into the office. Can I ask you something? Of course. My teachers said you were the first human to be friends with a Shadow Claw. Weren't you scared? Jack looked at Rex, who was still patiently explaining medical concepts to the students. You know what? I was scared at first, but I learned something important. Sometimes the scariest looking things aren't scary at all, once you take the time to understand them. The girl nodded seriously. Like my pet spider. Everyone thinks he's creepy, but he's really nice. Exactly like that. Jack laughed. After the students left, Jack and Rex walked through the city together. They passed the new library where the true history was kept, the memorial to those who died because of the council's lies, and the Hope Gardens where all species came to share their stories. They're calling us heroes, Jack said. But we just did what anyone should do. Looked past the surface and gave each other a chance. Rex drew one last image. A simple equal sign between a human stick figure and a Shadow Claw figure. Yeah, Jack agreed. In the end, we're all just people trying to make our way in the galaxy. Different shapes, different abilities, but people all the same. Above them, through the crystal roof, the storms still rage. But they were no longer a shield to hide behind. Now they were just part of what made this world beautiful, like the differences between species that once divided them, but now brought them together. Jack Stone, the human who befriended the galaxy's most lethal predator, had helped change history. But more importantly, he'd helped everyone understand a simple truth. There are no monsters, only people we haven't taken the time to understand. The real adventure, it turned out, was just beginning.